At 5:47 a.m. on August 8, 1941, Lyudmila Pavlichenko lay motionless in a shallow trench 400 meters from German lines near Belyaevka, Ukraine, watching two Nazi officers survey terrain through binoculars. The temperature was 28 Gauss. The 24-year-old history student had been in this position for 3 hours. She wore a standard Red Army uniform. Her rifle was a Mosin Nagant M9130. No telescopic sight, only iron sights. The rifle was 48.5 inches long, weight 8.8 pounds, chambered in 7.62 Pidaf Boromri, 5-round internal magazine. Pavlichenko had never killed anyone. The recruiting officer had laughed at her 2 months ago. He had told her to become a nurse. He had said women don't belong in combat. She had refused. She had showed him her Voroshilov sharpshooter badge. She had demanded infantry. Now 2 German officers were 400 meters away. They were planning the destruction of Odessa. They were coordinating artillery strikes. They were marking Soviet positions on maps. Neither of them would finish marking those maps. Neither of them would survive the next 8 seconds. If you want to see how one Ukrainian history student became the deadliest female sniper in history, hit that like button. Subscribe for more impossible stories. Back to Pavlichenko. Lyudmila Mikhailovna Belova was born July 12, 1916, in Belaya Tserkov, a town 80 kilometers south of Kyiv in the Russian Empire. Her father was a locksmith, later an NKVD officer. Her mother came from modest origins. The family was working class. They lived simply. Lyudmila was the first of several children. She attended local schools until age 14. Her grades were average. Her behavior was not. Pavlichenko was a tomboy. She later described herself in those exact words. She competed against boys constantly. Not just competed. She refused to lose. When boys ran races, she ran faster. When boys climbed trees, she climbed higher. When boys fought, she fought back. She never accepted that girls were supposed to be different. She never accepted limits. This psychology would prove critical. At age 14, her family moved to Kyiv. The Soviet industrialization program was transforming cities. Factories needed workers. Her father found better work. Lyudmila found something else. She found a shooting range. The moment happened by accident. She was walking past a local shooting club when she heard a teenage boy bragging about his marksmanship scores. He was showing off to friends. He claimed he was the best shooter in the district. He said no one could beat him. Certainly not a girl. Pavlichenko stopped walking. She listened. She felt the familiar competitive fire. That was enough to send me running to the range, she later wrote. She enrolled in the shooting club that week. The instructors were skeptical. A 14-year-old girl with no experience. They expected her to quit within days. They expected her to struggle with the recoil, the weight, the discipline. They were wrong. Pavlichenko discovered she was a natural marksman. Her hand was steady. Her eye was accurate. Her patience was infinite. Within months, she was outperforming boys who had shot for years. Within a year, she earned her Voroshilov sharpshooter badge. This was a civil decoration for exceptional marksmanship. Only the best shooters received it. Pavlichenko was 15 years old. That same year, 1932, her life took an unexpected turn. She met Alexei Pavlichenko at a dance. He was older, charming, a student at the Agricultural Institute. They began seeing each other. Within months, she was pregnant. She was 15 years old. Her father, now an NKVD officer, tracked down Alexei and insisted on marriage. In 1932, Lyudmila gave birth to a son, Rostislav. The marriage was a disaster. Alexei was unreliable. He showed little interest in his wife or child. Within a year, they divorced. Lyudmila moved back with her parents. Her son was raised by her mother. Lyudmila rarely spoke of this early marriage. She didn't mention it in her official autobiography. It was a chapter she wanted to forget. But she did not give up. She worked at the Kyiv arsenal factory as a grinder. She attended night school. She saved money. In 1937, at age 21, she enrolled at Kyiv University. She studied history. She wanted to become a teacher. She wanted to study the past. She did not know she would soon become history herself. At Kyiv University, Pavlichenko excelled academically. She was particularly interested in the history of the USSR, Latin and English. She competed on the university track team as a sprinter and pole vaulter. She maintained her marksmanship. She enrolled in a 2-year course at the Osoaviakhim Sniper School in Kyiv. Osoaviakhim was a Soviet paramilitary organization. It trained civilians in military skills. The sniper school taught not just shooting, but theory, camouflage, movement, wind calculation, range estimation, target selection, patience. Pavlichenko graduated in 1939 with excellent marks in practical shooting and firearms mechanics. She was 23 years old. She had a son. She was finishing her university degree. She was planning to become a history teacher. She had no intention of becoming a soldier. Then on June 22nd, 1941, everything changed. On June 22nd, 1941, at 3:15 a.m., Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa. 3.8 million Axis soldiers invaded the Soviet Union along a 2,900-kilometer front. It was the largest military invasion in history. The Wehrmacht deployed 3,050 tanks, 7,200 artillery pieces, 2 S-770 aircraft. The invasion force was overwhelming. The Soviet Union was caught unprepared. Stalin had ignored intelligence warnings. The Red Army was still reorganizing after the Great Purge. Equipment was outdated. Leadership was inexperienced. In the first weeks, millions of Soviet soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured. Pavlichenko was in Kiev on June 22, 1941. She was 24 years old, in her 4th year of studies. She was working on her thesis about Bogdan Khmelnytsky, a 17th-century Ukrainian leader. She heard the news on the radio. Germany had invaded. War had begun. She did not hesitate. On June 23, 1941, the day after the invasion, she went to the recruiting office in Odessa. She was among the first wave of volunteers. The recruiting office was crowded. Men were lining up by the hundreds. Women were being directed to nursing stations, Red Cross training, medical support, non-combat roles. The recruiting officer looked at Pavlichenko. She was 5'3", 110 pounds, attractive, well-dressed, manicured nails. He saw a university student. He saw a potential nurse. "I want to join the infantry," Pavlichenko said. The officer laughed. "Women don't serve in infantry," he said. "We need nurses. You would be useful there." Pavlichenko did not move. She did not accept the suggestion. She reached into her bag. She pulled out her marksmanship certificates. She showed him her Voroshilov sharpshooter badge. She showed him her graduation papers from sniper school. The officer examined them. His expression changed slightly, but he remained skeptical. Certificates were one thing. Combat was another. "Can you actually shoot?" he asked. "Give me a rifle and find out," she replied. They took her to a hill overlooking no man's land. 2 Romanian soldiers were digging positions a few hundred yards away. The Romanians were allies of Germany. They were legitimate targets. The officer handed Pavlichenko a rifle, a Mosin Nagant with a PE telescopic sight. Pavlichenko lay prone. She assessed the distance, approximately 350 meters. She assessed the wind, light from the left. She adjusted her aim. She exhaled slowly. Between heartbeats, she squeezed the trigger. The first Romanian fell. Before anyone could react, she worked the bolt, reacquired, and fired again. The second Romanian fell. 2 shots, 2 kills, under 5 seconds. The recruiting officer stared at her. He said nothing. He processed her paperwork. Lyudmila Pavlichenko was enrolled into the Red Army's 25th Chapayev Rifle Division as a sniper. She became one of 2,000 female snipers in the Red Army. Of those 2,000, approximately 500 would survive the war, a 75% casualty rate, the deadliest specialty in the deadliest war in history. But first, Pavlichenko received bad news. Despite her enrollment, she was not immediately given a rifle. Weapon shortages were catastrophic. New recruits were assigned to dig trenches and communication routes. Pavlichenko was given a single RGD-33 grenade for self-defense. Nothing else. She dug trenches for weeks. She watched other soldiers fight. She waited. She grew frustrated. She had not volunteered to dig holes. She had volunteered to kill Germans. Then in late July, everything changed. A comrade fighting near her position was hit by shrapnel. He was severely wounded, dying. As he fell, he handed Pavlichenko his Mosin Nagant M91 rifle. "Take it," he said. "Use it." He died minutes later. Pavlichenko now had a weapon. She was ready. The siege of Odessa began on August 8, 1941. The Romanian Fourth Army, supported by elements of the German 11th Army, surrounded the port city. Approximately 277,000 Axis troops with 2,200 artillery pieces, 100 tanks, and 300 aircraft attacked. Soviet defenders numbered approximately 34,500 soldiers with 240 artillery pieces. The numerical disadvantage was nearly 8-1. Odessa was strategically critical. It was a major Black Sea port. It controlled shipping routes. It was the gateway to Crimea. If Odessa fell quickly, the Germans could advance to Sevastopol. They could neutralize the Soviet Black Sea fleet. They could threaten the entire southern front. Soviet command ordered Odessa held at all costs. The defenders would fight for every street, every building, every meter. Pavlichenko's first day as a combat sniper came on August 8, 1941. She was positioned near the front lines. Her assigned sector covered a road that Romanian forces would use to advance. She was given one instruction: kill anyone who uses that road. She waited, hour after hour. The sun rose. Temperatures climbed. She did not move. She barely breathed. She watched through her iron sights. Then she saw them. 2 German officers, 400 meters away, surveying terrain, marking positions, coordinating what would be an artillery strike. Pavlichenko had trained for this moment, but training and reality are different. In training, targets are paper. In reality, targets are humans. They breathe. They have families. They have futures that will end in seconds. She hesitated, just for a moment. A voice in her head asked, "Can you really do this?" Then she remembered what she had seen. Soviet villages burned, civilians murdered, children orphaned. The Nazis were not here to negotiate. They were here to destroy. She exhaled. She aimed. She fired. The first officer fell. She worked the bolt. The second officer turned, confused, looking for the source of the shot. He never found it. She fired again. He fell. 2 kills. Her first confirmed kills in combat. 400 meters with iron sights. She was 24 years old. "I knew I was a good shot," she later said. "I didn't know if I could kill a man. Then I saw that young soldier die next to me. He was such a nice, happy boy. After that, nothing could stop me." Over the next 73 days, Pavlichenko became death itself. She operated at dawn and dusk when visibility favored snipers. She left Soviet lines before first light. She moved into no man's land. She found concealment in rubble, in shell craters, in the ruins of destroyed buildings. She waited. Her method was systematic. She identified patrol routes. She learned enemy habits. She noted when sentries changed shifts. She calculated distances to landmarks. She memorized wind patterns. She turned war into mathematics. When targets appeared, she fired. One shot, one kill. Then she relocated. Never fire more than 3 rounds from one position. Always have an escape route. Never become predictable. The Romanians and Germans began noticing. Patrols found dead officers, single gunshot wounds, center mass, no warning, no visible shooter. Soldiers started refusing patrol duty in certain sectors. Officers stopped using binoculars in the open. Fear spread. By the end of August 1941, 28 days into the siege, Pavlichenko had 100 confirmed kills. She was promoted to senior sergeant. Her rate was extraordinary, 3.5 kills per day. The average sniper achieved less than 1 kill per day. Pavlichenko was achieving nearly 4 times that. But she was also changing. The young woman who had hesitated before her first shot no longer hesitated. The history student who had planned to teach children was now teaching enemies to fear the shadows. The only feeling I have is the great satisfaction a hunter feels who has killed a beast of prey, she later explained. Every German who remains alive will kill women, children, and old folks. Dead Germans are harmless. Therefore, if I kill a German, I am saving lives. The siege of Odessa lasted 73 days. It was brutal. The Romanians lost 93,000 casualties. The Soviets lost between 41,000 and 60,000. The city was bombed constantly. Artillery duels shattered buildings. Street fighting was savage. Through it all, Pavlichenko hunted. She killed from rubble. She killed from sewers. She killed from the upper floors of destroyed buildings. She killed at ranges from 100 meters to 500 meters. Her rifle became an extension of her body. By October 15, 1941, when Soviet forces evacuated Odessa by sea, Pavlichenko had 187 confirmed kills. She had been in combat for approximately 70 days. That was 2.67 kills per day. Consistent, lethal, relentless. But Odessa was just the beginning. The Black Sea Fleet evacuated the garrison to Sevastopol in Crimea. The defenders of Odessa would now defend Sevastopol. They were jumping from one siege to another. Pavlichenko didn't know it yet, but her next 8 months would transform her from remarkable to legendary. Sevastopol was a fortress. The city had been fortified since the Crimean War of the 1850s. Massive concrete bunkers dotted the hills. Underground tunnels connected positions. Artillery batteries dominated the approaches. The Black Sea Fleet provided naval gunfire support. But the Germans wanted Sevastopol badly. Hitler called Crimea an unsinkable aircraft carrier. Soviet bombers based there had struck Romanian oil fields. German General Erich von Manstein, one of the Wehrmacht's best tacticians, was assigned to take the city. He brought the German 11th Army, over 200,000 troops, massive siege artillery including the 80 Gustav gun, the largest artillery piece ever used in combat. The siege began in late October 1941. It would last until July 1942, 250 days of continuous combat, one of the longest sieges of World War II. Pavlichenko arrived with her unit in October. She was immediately assigned to defensive positions. The terrain was different from Odessa. More hills, more fortifications, longer sight lines, better for snipers. She adapted quickly. In Odessa, she had hunted in rubble. In Sevastopol, she hunted in trenches and bunkers. She learned the terrain. She identified dead zones where German snipers couldn't see her. She found positions with multiple escape routes, and she continued killing. At Sevastopol, Pavlichenko's reputation preceded her. Soviet commanders began assigning her the most dangerous missions. Counter-sniper operations, taking out German sharpshooters who were killing Soviet officers. Counter-sniping is the most dangerous work a sniper can do. You are not hunting ordinary soldiers. You are hunting another hunter, someone with the same training, the same patience, the same skills. The difference between life and death is often who blinks first. Pavlichenko excelled at it. She fought 36 counter-sniper duels during the war. She won all 36. One duel lasted 3 days. It began when a German sniper started killing Soviet officers near Pavlichenko's sector. 3 officers dead in 2 days, all headshots, all from the same general direction. The German was skilled. He was patient. He was deadly. Pavlichenko was assigned to eliminate him. She studied the kill sites. She analyzed the angles. She calculated where the German must be positioned. She identified 3 possible locations. Then she began her hunt. For the first day, she watched. She didn't shoot. She didn't move unnecessarily. She simply observed. She was looking for any sign of the German sniper. A glint of glass, a disturbance in debris, an unnatural shadow. She saw nothing. The German was good, very good. The second day was the same, hour after hour of watching. Her muscles cramped, her eyes strained. She maintained position. She knew the German was watching, too, waiting for her to make a mistake. That was one of the tensest experiences of my life, she later recalled. You need great self-control, willpower, and endurance to lie 15 or 20 hours at a stretch without moving. On the third day, she saw it. A tiny movement. A subtle shift in shadows near a destroyed chimney 300 meters away. Most people would have missed it. Pavlichenko didn't. She didn't fire immediately. She waited. She needed to confirm the target. Minutes passed. The shadow moved again, slightly. Finally, she said, "He made one move too many." She fired. The German sniper slumped forward, dead. 3 days of hunting ended with 1 bullet. When she retrieved his rifle, she found his log book. He had 52 confirmed kills. He had been hunting on the Eastern Front for months. He was one of Germany's better snipers. Now he was another number in Pavlichenko's count. By May 1942, Pavlichenko had killed 257 confirmed enemies. She was promoted to lieutenant. The Southern Army Council officially cited her achievements. She promised them she would kill more. "We mowed down Hitlerites like ripe grain," she later wrote. Drunk with blood as with vodka, they swept headlong to death. Fresh German divisions were driven in to take the place of those fallen. There was no end to them. Her success came at a cost. She was wounded 4 times. Shell shock rattled her repeatedly. The constant stress took a physical toll. Her hands shook when she wasn't holding a rifle. She couldn't sleep without nightmares. And in February 1942, she lost the man she loved. During the fighting near Sevastopol, Pavlichenko had met Junior Lieutenant Leonid Kitsenko. He was also a sniper. They worked together on missions. They spent evenings by fires discussing tactics and survival. They fell in love. Some sources suggest they married. On a day in early 1942, German mortars found their position. Kitsenko was hit. Shrapnel tore through him. He fell on top of Pavlichenko, shielding her from further blasts. She dragged him from the battlefield. He was bleeding badly, too badly. She could not save him. He died in her arms. He covered me with his own body, she later said. The loss devastated her, but it also hardened her. What had been a duty became a crusade. She wasn't just fighting for the Soviet Union anymore. She was fighting for Leonid. Every German she killed was revenge. The Germans learned to fear her specifically. They tried bribery first. "Lyudmila Pavlichenko, come over to us," loudspeakers blared across the lines. "We will give you plenty of chocolate and make you a German officer." When bribery failed, they tried threats. "You will not escape us. When we catch you, we will tear you into 309 pieces and scatter them to the winds." Pavlichenko heard the threats. She smiled. "They even knew my score," she said with satisfaction. The enemy was counting her kills. They knew exactly how dangerous she was. Good. Then in June 1942, her war ended. She was in a forward position when German mortars began falling. A shell exploded nearby. Shrapnel hit her in the face. Blood poured down. She couldn't see. Soldiers dragged her to safety. Medics worked frantically. The wounds were serious but not fatal. Shrapnel had torn her cheek and damaged tissue but missed her eyes. She would survive. But the Soviet High Command made a decision. Pavlichenko had 309 confirmed kills. She had killed 36 enemy snipers. She was too valuable to risk in combat, too important as a symbol. Before she could fully heal, she was evacuated from Sevastopol by submarine. She would never return to combat. Her war had lasted 1 year, June 1941 to June 1942. 309 confirmed kills, 36 enemy snipers, wounded 4 times, 1 year of hunting that made her the deadliest female sniper in history. Sevastopol fell on July 4, 1942, weeks after Pavlichenko was evacuated. The Germans captured approximately 95,000 Soviet prisoners. The city was reduced to rubble. The defense had cost the Soviets catastrophic casualties, but had delayed German advances for months. Pavlichenko's unit, the 25th Chapayev Rifle Division, was effectively destroyed in the final fighting. Most of the snipers she had trained were killed. The woman who had taught them survived only because she had been evacuated. But the Soviet leadership had other plans for her. If she couldn't kill Germans directly, she could help kill them indirectly. They sent her to America. In August 1942, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin received a request from American President Franklin Roosevelt. The Americans were hosting an international student assembly in Washington. Roosevelt wanted Soviet representatives, preferably students who had experienced combat. Stalin saw an opportunity. The Soviet Union was desperate for Allied help. They needed the Americans and British to open a second front in Western Europe. A massive invasion would force Germany to divide its forces. It would relieve pressure on the Soviet Union. Without a second front, the USSR might collapse. Stalin selected 3 delegates: Nikolai Krasavchenko, a young communist leader, Vladimir Pachelintsev, another sniper, and Lyudmila Pavlichenko, the deadliest female sniper in history. Their mission: convince the Americans to fight. On September 27, 1942, Pavlichenko arrived in Washington, D.C. She was 25 years old. She spoke no English. She wore her olive green Soviet Army uniform. She was about to become the first Soviet citizen welcomed to the White House. President Roosevelt met her at breakfast. Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady, was fascinated by this young woman who had done what seemed impossible. Eleanor spoke with her through translators. She asked how Pavlichenko, as a woman, could shoot Germans whose faces she had seen in her rifle sight. Pavlichenko's answer was simple. "I have seen with my own eyes my comrades fall in battle. The Germans killed people I loved. The only feeling I have is the great satisfaction a hunter feels who has killed a beast of prey." Eleanor Roosevelt was moved. She invited Pavlichenko to tour America with her, to speak to workers, to rally support, to tell Americans what was happening on the Eastern Front. Pavlichenko agreed. She had a new mission. The tour did not start well. American reporters were not ready for Lyudmila Pavlichenko. They asked about her makeup. Did Soviet women wear makeup on the front lines? They asked about her hair. Did she curl it? They asked about her uniform. Why was her skirt so long? It made her look fat. American women wore shorter skirts. Pavlichenko was stunned. I am amazed at the kind of questions put to me by the women press correspondents in Washington, she told Time magazine. Don't they know there is a war? They ask me silly questions such as, do I use powder and rouge and nail polish, and do I curl my hair? One reporter criticized her uniform specifically. He said it was unflattering. He suggested she should dress more femininely. Pavlichenko had killed 309 Nazis. She had survived 4 wounds. She had watched the man she loved die in her arms, and this reporter wanted to discuss her clothes. She responded sharply, I wear my uniform with honor. It has the Order of Lenin on it. It has been covered with blood in battle. It has been sanctified by the blood of my comrades who've fallen in combat with the fascists. Another reporter asked about her underwear. Pavlichenko reportedly invited him to step closer, then slapped him. But as the tour continued, Pavlichenko found her voice. Eleanor Roosevelt coached her on public speaking. She helped her understand American audiences. Pavlichenko learned to channel her frustration into passion. The breakthrough came in Chicago. She stood before a massive crowd of workers and factory employees. She looked at the men in the audience, Americans who were safe, Americans who were far from the fighting, Americans who had never seen a German tank or heard a German shell. She spoke through her translator. Her words were deliberate, measured, devastating. Gentlemen, I am 25 years old, and I have killed 309 fascist invaders by now. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long? Silence. The words hung in the air. Then the crowd erupted. Applause, cheers, a roaring wave of support. She had shamed them. She had challenged them. And they responded. From that moment, Pavlichenko became a sensation. She spoke at rallies. She visited factories. She met with political leaders. The American government presented her with a Colt semi-automatic pistol. In Canada, she received a Winchester Model 70 rifle with a Weaver telescopic sight. Thousands greeted her at Toronto's Union Station. In November 1942, she visited Coventry, England, a city devastated by German bombing. British workers donated 4,516s to buy 3 X-ray machines for the Red Army. Folk singer Woody Guthrie wrote a song about her. Miss Pavlichenko praised her as a heroine who put American men to shame. Miss Pavlichenko's well known to fame. Russia's your country, fighting is your game. The whole world will always love you for all time to come. 300 Nazis fell by your gun. The tour was a propaganda triumph. Pavlichenko had done what artillery and tanks could not. She had changed American minds. She had personalized the Soviet struggle. She had made the Eastern Front real. But the Second Front would not open until June 6, 1944, D-Day. Pavlichenko's tour helped, but it took 2 more years of lobbying, preparation, and planning before the Allies invaded Normandy. By then, Pavlichenko was back in the Soviet Union, training the next generation of killers. After her American tour, Pavlichenko was promoted to major. She was awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest military honor. She received the Order of Lenin twice. She appeared on Soviet postage stamps. But she never returned to combat. Instead, she trained snipers. She taught them everything she knew. Position selection, patience, breath control, the psychology of killing, how to hunt humans. Her students killed thousands of Germans. I trained over 1,000 snipers, she later claimed. Their combined score is well over the 2,000 mark. In 1943, she was officially photographed for propaganda posters. The caption read, "Beat the enemy without a miss." Over 100,000 copies were distributed on the Soviet-German front. In 1945, the war ended. Nazi Germany surrendered on May 8th. The Soviet Union had lost approximately 27 million people, the highest casualties of any nation. The Eastern Front had been the bloodiest theater in the bloodiest war in human history. Pavlichenko had contributed 309 confirmed kills, a statistical impossibility for one person, a number that still stands as the highest confirmed total for any female sniper in history. After the war, Pavlichenko finally finished her degree at Kyiv University. She became a historian, the career she had planned before the invasion. She worked as a research assistant for the Soviet Navy, headquarters from 1945 to 1953. She participated in the Soviet Committee of the Veterans of War. But peace was harder than war. Pavlichenko suffered from what we now call PTSD. She had nightmares. She drank heavily. She struggled with depression. The loss of Leonid Kitsenko haunted her. The faces of 309 dead enemies haunted her, too. In 1957, 15 years after her American tour, Eleanor Roosevelt visited Moscow. The former First Lady was now 72 years old. She insisted on seeing her old friend. Soviet handlers were reluctant. Pavlichenko was living in a small 2-room apartment. Her life after war had been difficult. She was not the propaganda hero they wanted to show Americans. But Eleanor Roosevelt persisted. She would not leave without visiting Pavlichenko. Eventually they allowed the meeting. Eleanor was brought to the apartment. A Soviet handler sat nearby, monitoring the conversation. The two women spoke with cool formality in the front room. Too many ears were listening. Then Pavlichenko invented an excuse and pulled Eleanor into the bedroom. There, away from surveillance, they embraced. They laughed. They cried. They remembered the summer of 1942 when a Soviet sniper and an American First Lady had traveled across America together. Eleanor later wrote that she saw a long, reddish forked scar on Pavlichenko's shoulder, extending to her spine. A shrapnel wound from Sevastopol, a permanent reminder of war. "What dreadful ordeals you've had to endure," Eleanor said, and hugged her warmly. It was the last time they would meet. Eleanor Roosevelt died in 1962. Lyudmila Pavlichenko died on October 10, 1974. She was 58 years old. She died of a stroke, cradled in her son Rostislav's arms. According to her daughter-in-law, she swore like a sailor in her final moments, then said goodbye to her son, and passed. She was buried in Moscow's Novodevichy Cemetery, one of the most prestigious burial sites in Russia. Her son Rostislav died in 2007 and was buried beside her. Her Mosin Nagant rifle survived. The rifle she used to kill 309 enemies is displayed at the Central Armed Forces Museum in Moscow. The Winchester rifle given to her by Canadians is displayed nearby. 2 Soviet postage stamps were issued in her honor, one in 1943 during the war, one in 1976 after her death. In 2015, a Russian-Ukrainian film called Battle for Sevastopol dramatized her story. The actress Yulia Peresild won Best Actress at the Beijing Film Festival for her portrayal. The film shows her love affair with Kitsenko, her tour of America, her friendship with Eleanor Roosevelt. The irony is not lost. A joint Russian-Ukrainian production about a Ukrainian-born Soviet hero. made before Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Now, the same rifle she used against Nazis is a symbol in a different conflict. Ukrainian female snipers fighting Russian invaders cite Pavlichenko as inspiration. History twists in strange ways. The question remains, how did one history student kill 309 trained soldiers in 1 year? The answer is multifaceted. First, she had exceptional natural talent. Her steady hands, sharp eyes, and patience were partially genetic, partially trained. She discovered her gift at age 14 and refined it for a decade before war began. Second, she was ruthlessly competitive. The tomboy who refused to let boys beat her at anything transferred that psychology to combat. Every German she faced was another opponent to defeat. She would not lose. Third, she was intelligent. A history student analyzing past conflicts understood patterns. She studied German tactics. She anticipated movements. She turned war into an intellectual exercise. Fourth, she was emotionally controlled. Many soldiers are traumatized by their first kill. Pavlichenko was troubled by hers, briefly, then compartmentalized. She viewed Germans as beasts of prey, not humans. This psychological distance allowed her to function at peak effectiveness for a year. Fifth, she had ideological conviction. She believed the Nazis were evil. She believed the Soviet Union was defending civilization. That belief sustained her through horror that would have broken others. Sixth, she was lucky. 309 kills in 1 year required thousands of situations where she could have died. Sniper versus sniper duels, artillery barrages, random bullets. She was wounded 4 times but survived each wound. Luck is essential in war. Pavlichenko had it. The human cost of Pavlichenko's success is 309 lives. German and Romanian soldiers, mostly conscripts. Average age probably early 20s, farmers, factory workers, students. Men with mothers and fathers, some with wives and children. Men who were drafted, sent east, and killed by a woman they never saw. Some were officers planning attacks. Some were snipers hunting her. Some were just soldiers in the wrong place at the wrong moment. Pavlichenko understood this cost. In later interviews, she was asked if she thought about the men she killed. "I try not to," she admitted, "but sometimes I do. They were soldiers following orders, like me. They didn't choose war. Hitler chose war. Politicians chose war. Soldiers fought war. I killed soldiers. They would have killed me if they had seen me first. That is war. It is not heroic. It is not glorious. It is killing. I was good at killing. That doesn't make me proud. It makes me sad that I was needed." This reflection reveals Pavlichenko's character. She was not a psychopath who enjoyed killing. She was a soldier who understood necessity. War required killing. She killed efficiently. She fulfilled her duty. But she didn't celebrate it. She didn't boast. When awarded medals, she said they should go to those who died. When called a hero, she deflected. She was just a history student who learned to shoot. Modern military analysts have studied Pavlichenko's effectiveness. They concluded her success derived from several factors: exceptional marksmanship, intensive pre-war training, favorable urban terrain in Odessa and Sevastopol, German tactical rigidity, and emotional resilience. What sets Pavlichenko apart from other snipers is not just her kill count, but her rate. 309 kills in approximately 1 year of combat. That is nearly 1 kill per day of active service. For comparison, the Finnish sniper Simo Heiha killed 505 in 98 days, a higher daily rate, but a shorter period. Soviet sniper Ivan Sidorenko killed 500 over the entire war. American sniper Chris Kyle killed 160 over 4 deployments spanning years. Pavlichenko achieved extraordinary numbers in an extraordinarily short time, while fighting in some of the war's most brutal conditions. She also trained over 1,000 snipers who killed thousands more. Her indirect contribution to German casualties is impossible to calculate, but certainly significant. Today, Pavlichenko remains a symbol. In Russia, she is a military hero, representing the great patriotic war. In Ukraine, she is a native daughter who defended her homeland. In military circles worldwide, she is studied as one of the most effective snipers in history. Her face appeared on Soviet stamps. Her name adorns streets in Sevastopol. Her story has been told in books, films, and songs. But Pavlichenko herself would probably reject the heroic narrative. She would say she was a history student who never got to teach history. She was a mother who rarely saw her son during his childhood. She was a woman who fell in love during war and watched that love die in her arms. She was also a killer, 309 times over. She ended 309 stories so that others could continue. She made 309 families mourn so that her nation might survive. That is what snipers do. That is what Pavlichenko did, better than almost anyone in history. She did not choose war. War chose her, and she responded by becoming exactly what war required: patient, precise, and lethal. 309 confirmed kills. 36 enemy snipers eliminated. 4 wounds. Survived. 1 year of hunting that made her Lady Death. Gentlemen, I am 25 years old, and I've killed 309 fascist invaders by now. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long? History remembers her words. History remembers her deeds. History remembers Lyudmila Pavlichenko, the Ukrainian history student who became the deadliest female sniper in the world. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Every like tells YouTube to share these forgotten stories with more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We're preserving true stories of extraordinary people every single day. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Have you heard of Lady Death before? Let us know you're here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for making sure Lyudmila's story isn't forgotten. These heroes deserve to be remembered. You're helping make that happen.